To be honest, when I left, came from, I said I never want to work in consulting ever again. Always on the road, no saying where you go, no saying how long you get to stay there. There was a lot of people, myself included, who didn't want the strapping of that lifestyle, the traditional consulting lifestyle. And so PointB began as a way to solve that.
It really started with putting people at the center. And that we said everyone at our firm has intrinsic worth and value. We genuinely cared about their life. And not just everyone in our firm, but whoever we come into contact with, they're all equally valuable in our eyes. And we meant that.
And so our founders really had this idea of, hey, we could provide the same results to our clients. We could solve the same problems that our clients have, but we could also create an experience for our people that takes care of them too.
Give me a sense of what consultancy was like back then.
Well, consulting, you got to remember that in the early days, go back to say the mid-90s, early mid-90s, consulting was run like a machine. Big firms essentially used people as their means of production, and they produced deliverables for their clients. So the people were the machines, and they ran them like machines. I was working sometimes well over 100 hours a week, and I really had no life.
What was the shift for you?
So I kind of made that choice. I made that, came to the conclusion that consulting wasn't going to allow me to have the life I wanted to have. So I thought, well, instead of taking care of a client, let's take care of the people in our firm, and then in turn let them take care of clients.
How long have you worked at PointB?
I've been at PointB 19 years.
Why have you stayed here for 19 years? What's kept you personally here?
The opportunities for me to contribute to the business, to help clients solve their problems, to chart a course for myself that allowed me to follow my passions was really something that I hadn't experienced before, certainly in other organizations that I'd been involved with. But also, I had just been at PointB for maybe less than a year. And my oldest son is an adopted son, and he came with a lot of special needs. And the way PointB embraced kind of this new big step in my life, after not knowing me for very long, really, was really significant.
Instead of asking people to commit everything to the firm, and then hopefully, leave the scraps for the rest of their life, we asked them to commit everything to their lives and just give us, what you can give. We wanted them to have the life they wanted to live and wrap PointB around it, not vice versa. Not that we don't care about clients, but really our job is to take care of people. As we got going and things were starting to be successful at PointB, I get a lot of compliments. Hey, wow, you built such an incredible company, and you're such genius to figure out all these cultural things. And we actually, some of the things we did are now standard practice in the industry. But it wasn't genius. I mean, we borrowed it from, the Bible. But we never really brought that out. We didn't call it Christian. We just said, hey, here's the way we're going to treat each other. This is just the way that we operate. We were probably about 10 years in, we started to realize that this thing had legs and it was going to be around for a while, but we also started to wonder, how in the world are we ever going to exit this thing? And we were getting asked by our employees, are you guys going to own this, the three of you going to own this forever? Or are you going to sell out to some big firm and this whole thing's going to collapse when the big firm comes in and imposes their values? So we realized we needed to have an answer for them. So we looked at things like going public. We looked at being acquired by a larger firm. We looked at doing some financial, engineering. We looked at being purchased by a private equity firm, which is essentially a deferred acquisition.
I think their goal was to really think about how do we preserve the thing that we're proud of, the thing that we know works. And one of the best ways was to give it to the people who know the most about that.
I was pushing the ESOP option. ESOP is an employee stock ownership plan. I knew that was really the only way we could go because I think it was the only way that was going to be a win for everybody. And so ultimately we did settle on an ESOP.
And then it happened, and here we were, ta-da, all of a sudden we're all owners. And we started to learn about what it meant to be an owner, and really from then had our own journey of, well, what does it mean to be an employee owner? The longer you stay at PointB, the more your employee ownership shares grow. And it creates in people a longer-term view of why to stay that's not dependent upon necessarily wealth, but on the success of the business.
Ownership just seems intrinsically good. We always said we existed for the benefit of our people, and then when we became 100% ESOP owned, that was literally true.
Existing for the benefit of your people, that might feel at some other places in contrast with this singular goal of making a lot of money or looking at the bottom line. What PointB recognizes is that those are very closely intertwined. We talk about we don't make widgets, right? We have people. So if you're treating your people well, you're feeding them and nurturing them, and you're growing them as a person, then that in turn will lead to people delivering really great work, which then in turn is really how we make money.
PointB does exist for the benefit of its people. When we look at our billable hours, plan out what vacations are you going to take, what time off, what things are you going to do during the year ahead that are going to help you maintain work-life balance. We also say, hey, can I take this from you? Looks like you're overwhelmed. You're not in this alone.
You're not hung out there to dry on your own. Like, we got you, just like a family would. And when crisis happens or when beautiful things happen, we celebrate together and we mourn together. And we support you.
I'm a mom of a young kid, and I have been so supported by PointB through my journey into motherhood. We absolutely are supporting that whole life aspect.
If I were to generalize how we think about what we want for our employees at PointB, we want them to think like professionals, feel like they're part of a loving, supportive family, and then to act like a business owner. And that means we're not going to tell you absolutely everything that you should do. We're going to think that you know how to do some of those things yourself, and you can make your own decisions.
Faith does play into a lot of my relationships at PointB.
My faith gets expressed at work through service to the greater good, to the greater community.
We have conversations about how we bring our faith to work and how people show up for one another.
It's a team of people who care about each other. They care about the welfare not only of themselves but of their clients. We all work to raise all boats. Like, it's not a zero-sum game. And to me, that's a real differentiator about PointB.
When people of faith approach business as a ministry field, business gets really exciting.
PointB is really a mission-based organization, helping every person find their purpose and live out how they were designed to be.